Fallout, Chapter 3 The News. The inside of the plane was itself gigantic, with sloped white walls, and then there was Patrick standing in the middle of the plane. "Tea or coffee? Fancy a fag? Or another smoke?" I declined, but Andy accepted the cigarette. Then I caved in and asked for a blunt. Patrick then reached into a small wooden box and pulled out a cigarette for Andy and my blunt. "Thank you, Patrick." Andy was using his razor-sharp intellect to gather as much on the potential and probable enemy. Patrick seemed to be too high on himself to notice the wolf in sheep's clothing. Good. Let's hope it stayed that way. "So, gentlemen, tell me about yourselves. What is there to know?" Andy spoke first. "Well, I was just another random person when the planes fell, and coupled with my brother Gordon, we were just left in shock and awe as the world went dark nearly a month ago. But it was Seb who saved us, as he's a capable leader." I tried not to portray my emotions at Andy's lie. Patrick seemed to be impressed. "So, Seb, what is your story?" I looked at Andy, who was simply all smiles. I knew I had to play along with this lie as well. I was a simple nurse when the world went dark, so I knew basic first aid, and I guess I was a natural when it came to leadership. I have management experience, so when it comes to people, I find it easy. Patrick watched me as I spoke, and I started to get slightly nervous, but then he clapped his hands together. "Well, it would seem as though you're capable survivors, just what my empire is looking for. And I hate to tell you this, but you're never returning to California. You are mine now." I looked to Patrick and immediately raised my gun. "Land this plane now!" He walked over to me with his smile never wavering. Then he took his cane and in one fell swoop thrashed my hand. The pain was immediate, and Andy took a very risky shot with his gun. He aimed directly into the chest of Patrick. His chest blew open from the AR-15. He collapsed onto the ground, wheezing and bleeding. As I looked into his eyes, "You never should have fucked with us, or invited us onto your plane." His green and brown eyes closed, and he was out of the way. Andy immediately rushed over to me. "Oh my God, are you okay?" I nodded while looking around the plane. "I am, but we need to get back to California. Also, who the hell is flying the plane?" Andy rushed into the cockpit, and it was an AI driving the plane. Andy immediately started to type and move levers back and forth. If we landed in Britain with Patrick dead, we'd too be gone. "Hurry up, Andy, we don't want to die." He nodded and kept fiddling with the controls, eventually getting a screen that said, "Alter course." He clicked yes and typed in the word Sacramento. The plane then physically started to turn back towards California. Well, that was one thing taken care of, and after an hour or so of flying, the wheels descended and we touched down on the ground. Andy had also sent a text to Han explaining the situation. The ramp opened again, and Han and Gordon rushed in. Han ran to hug me. "I told you it was a trap, you big dumb idiot." I smiled and hugged her back. "Yeah, you were right. It's a damn shame. Now we have to rebuild the state from the ground up, and I'm sorry we didn't listen to you." She just hugged me tightly, and the sun was starting to rise and show the true devastation of Atmos' attack. I sighed as there were fires rising from all over the city. Han let me go, and Gordon walked over to me. "We thought we'd lost you. Also, I'm glad we didn't have to nuke Europe. But we weren't out of the woodwork yet, as I had a sneaking suspicion that Europe would be out for blood." Andy then walked over with a smile plastered on his face. "What's up?" He looked at me and took out a device from earlier. "This is what I call a disruptor, and I plugged it into Patrick's plane. Should tell the rest of Europe that his plane went down somewhere over the Pacific. But it'll obscure the signal so they never find the plane. Call it an insurance policy that we don't have to deal with Europe for as long as possible." I try to be prepared for anything and everything at this point. I nodded, and Han and Gordon just sighed a breath of relief. That was some good news when there was far too much going on.